Our devotional speaker this morning is a veteran educator. After receiving both a bachelor's and a master's degree from the University of Utah, Elder Neil A. Maxwell returned to that university to hold a variety of administrative and teaching positions, culminating in his service as Executive Vice President of the University of Utah. He then served for 6 years as the Commissioner of Education of the Church Educational System. And that service duplicating much of my own service here, I had the opportunity of working under his direction, and that was a joyful time for me and for the students and faculty and administrators of Brigham Young University. We honor and love Elder Neil A. Maxwell as not only our commissioner, as he then was, but also as an alumnus of BYU, for he received an honorary degree from this institution at the conclusion of his service as commissioner. He is currently serving on the Utah State Board of Regents and as a member of the Board of Trustees of Brigham Young University. In addition, Elder Maxwell has been active in a variety of public service. He's been director of several business firms, he's authored various books and articles, and has dedicated a lifetime of service to the church. He has served as a bishop, as a member of the Young Men's General Board, and as a regional representative of the 12. Prior to his present assignment, he was called as an assistant to the 12 in 1974. He is married to the former Colleen Hinckley, whom we welcome most warmly today. She is seated beside him on the stand. They are the parents of 4 children, all of whom are present or former students of BYU. It's now our privilege to hear from Elder Neil A. Maxwell, one of the presidents of the First Quorum of 70.
Thank you very much, President Oaks and sisters, for that lovely music. This is always a great experience for any of us to have. Often when I'm speaking to student leaders in higher education, I have used the analogy that in a university, the faculty and staff and administration are like the natives, and the students are like tourists. In many ways, a recurring devotional speaker is more like one of the natives. Even so, I thank President Oaks for once again extending this precious privilege to me. You may conclude today, however, that I am becoming more like a tourist, since today I will try to cover 2 topics in order to make the most of these fleeting moments. Discipleship includes good citizenship. And in this connection, brothers and sisters, if you're careful students of the statements of the modern prophets, you will have noticed that with rare exceptions, especially when the First Presidency has spoken out, the concerns expressed have been over moral issues, not issues between political parties. The declarations are about principles, not people, and causes, not candidates. On occasions, at other levels in the church, a few have not been so discreet, so wise, or so inspired. But make no mistake about it, brothers and sisters, in the months and years ahead, events will require of each member that he or she decide whether or not he or she will follow the First Presidency. Members will find it more and more difficult to halt longer between 2 opinions. President Marion G. Romney said many years ago that he had, quote, never hesitated to follow the counsel of the authorities of the church, even though it crossed my social, professional, or political life, end of quote. This is a hard doctrine, but it is a particularly vital doctrine in a society which is becoming more wicked. In short, brothers and sisters, not being ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ includes not being ashamed of the prophets of Jesus Christ. We are now entering a period of incredible ironies. Let us cite but one of these ironies, which is yet in its subtle stages. We will see in our time a maximum effort made to establish irreligion as the state religion. It is actually a new form of paganism, which uses the carefully preserved and cultivated freedoms of Western civilization to shrink freedom, even as it rejects the value essence of our rich Judeo-Christian heritage. Clare Boothe Luce wrote recently, quote, the framers of the Constitution forbade the Congress to make any law respecting the establishment of religion, thus leaving the states free to do so, as several of them did. And they explicitly forbade Congress to abridge the free exercise of religion, thus giving actual religious observance a rhetorical emphasis that fully accords with the special concern we know they had for religion. It takes a special ingenuity to wring out of this a governmental indifference to religion, let alone an aggressive secularism. Yet, there are those who insist that the First Amendment actually proscribes governmental partiality not only to any single religion, but to religion as such. So the tax exemption for churches is now thought to be unconstitutional. It is startling, she continues, to consider that a clause clearly protecting religion can be construed as requiring that it be denied a status routinely granted to educational and charitable enterprises which have no overt constitutional protection. Far from equalizing unbelief, secularism has succeeded in virtually establishing it. She continues, what the secularists are increasingly demanding in their disingenuous way is that religious people, when they act politically, act only on secularist grounds. They are trying to equate acting on religion with establishing religion. And I repeat, the consequence of such logic is really to establish secularism. It is, in fact, to force the religious to internalize the major premise of secularism, that religion has no proper bearing on public affairs, end of quote. Brothers and sisters, irreligion as the state religion would be the worst of all combinations. Its orthodoxy would be insistent and its inquisitors inevitable. Its paid ministry would be numerous beyond belief. Its Caesars would be insufferably condescending. Its majorities, when faced with clear alternatives, will make the Barabbas choice, as did a mob centuries ago when Pilate confronted them with the need to decide. Your discipleship may see the time come when religious convictions are heavily discounted. Clare Boothe Luce also observed, a religious conviction is now a second-class conviction, expected to step deferentially to the back of the secular bus and not to get uppity about it. This new irreligious imperialism seeks to disallow certain of people's opinions simply because those opinions grow out of religious convictions. Resistance to abortion will be seen as primitive. Concern over the institution of the family will be viewed as untrendy and unenlightened. In its mildest form, irreligion will merely be condescending towards those who hold to traditional Judeo-Christian values. In its more harsh forms, as is always the case with those whose dogmatism is blinding, the secular church will do what it can to nullify the opinions of those who still worry over standards such as those in the Ten Commandments. It is always such an easy step from dogmatism to unfair play, especially so when the dogmatists believe themselves to be dealing with primitive people who do not know what is best for them. It is the secular bureaucrat's burden, you see. We will notice, paradoxically, that the new pagans, however, are not so devoted to their beliefs that they are willing to fund their own programs. They prefer to use the funds of believers, but without having to take the latter's opinions. Am I saying that the voting rights of the people of religion are in danger? Of course not. Am I saying it's back to the catacombs? No. But there is occurring a discounting of religiously based opinions. There may even be a covert and subtle disqualification of some for certain offices in some situations. If people, however, are not permitted to advocate, to assert, and to bring to bear in every legitimate way the opinions and views they hold, which grow out of their religious convictions, what manner of men and women would we be anyway? Our founding fathers did not wish to have a state church established, nor to have a particular religion favored by government. They wanted religion to be free to make its own way. But neither did they intend to have irreligion made into a favored state church. Notice the terrible irony if this trend were to continue. When the secular church goes after its heretics, where are the sanctuaries? To what landfalls and Plymouth Rocks can future pilgrims go? Without knowing, brothers and sisters, precisely how our Constitution will be most imperiled, I have always assumed personally that the challenges would occur with regard to basic provisions such as the First Amendment and separation of powers, etc., and not in Article 1, Section 9 regarding the conferring of titles of nobilities. what I've just described to you could become one of those basic challenges.